Ha 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 ha. Oh my goodness. I'll tell you what. Barry just told me a great joke, guys. Because Barry is a brick and he is now a vampire, he can turn into bats. He is, as one would maybe say, to use a particular turn of phrase, he is a brick bat. Ha ha ha. So humorous, so great. Oh, seriously, this is beginning to worry me. I mean, I wake up every day to dead rats all over my studio that have been desiccated and have all their moisture and blood sucked out of them. I'm laughing, but I'm actually starting to be a little bit afraid. Oh, no, Barry, it's all good. It's all good. All right, we're fine. You just stay down here from now on. Okay. Bounties. Egghead's over, so I guess that means that the Straw Hats are going to get new bounties. I guess we haven't even really had that much time with the ones after Wano. Wano went on for 150-something chapters, and then we ended, and we got like, whoa, Luffy's a Yonko now. 3 billion berries, and Zoro and Sanji and Jinbei have over 1 billion, and, you know, it's crazy, right? And Frankie got turned into the Thousand Sunny. You know, okay, to be straight up with you, it's a funny joke, but I kind of wish that wouldn't be his one. Frankie deserves to have, like, an actual photo of his badass self on his wanted poster, for God's sake. I mean, I guess you could say, well, the Thousand Sunny is his creation, so that works, but if that was what Oda was going for, like, yeah, I'll give them some new wanted posters, but then right after Egghead, I'm going to give them some new ones anyway. So if that's the case, then maybe... Where does Frankie's go from there, though? Maybe the next one is not the Sunny or Frankie or the Frankie Shogun. Actually, you know what? It's going to be Emeth. Yeah, Frankie's next wanted poster is just going to be the Iron Giant. It's going to be Emeth. Let's just, like, lock in for that right now. Like, Frankie could at least be like, you know what? Like, that's badass, but also that's not even something I built. Like, come on. So I will be honest with you, like, the whole bounty thing has taken a turn, at least for me, with the story. So, you know, at the beginning of the story, it was a way to, like, measure the Straw Hats' progress through the Grand Line as they begin their pirate adventure. You know, when Luffy's first bounty was like 30 million, and we can compare that to Arlong's 20 and Don Krieg's 17. What do you think Don Krieg's bounty is right now? Because it ain't 17 million no more. And, you know, you could compare that, and it's like, oh, Luffy's the most wanted man in the East Blue. And then after Crocodile, it was 100 million. Wow. After Enies Lobby, 300 million. Wow, he's going places, right? And it's a way to, like, measure their progress. And it still very much is that, but now the Straw Hats have become a Yonko crew. They are an Emperor crew. I mean, maybe you might be like Rob Lucci and be like, well, I don't consider him an emperor. I didn't vote for Luffy to be an emperor, so he's not one yet. He hasn't become an emperor in my eyes. Yeah, maybe you could go with Lucci on that, but Luffy is an emperor. Like, authoritatively in the story, Oda classifies him as an emperor, all right? Same thing with Buggy. That's just how it is. All right. So, I mean, yeah, there is another position to go higher up than that. Luffy's going to become the Pirate King, and his final bounty in the story will be higher than Roger's. Roger's was around 5.5 billion. Luffy's is currently sitting at 3 billion, so it's going to be higher than that. And, of course, all of the crew's bounties are going to go up even higher. But the way I'm looking at this now, and the way this whole dynamic with bounties has kind of changed, because the Straw Hats are now an Emperor crew, it's like at the end of an RPG. Like, let's say you're playing a big immersive RPG, and at the beginning it's like, oh man, I gotta save up as much gold as possible to buy whatever. But then by the end of the game, you might have like so much gold that it like, wow, I have more gold than I could even spend, kind of a thing in this game. So it doesn't matter as much as it did back then. Let's say Luffy's bounty shoots up to like, let's say 5 billion. All right, let's say, because a lot of crazy shit went down at Egghead, you know what I mean? Like, the fact it could go up from 3 billion to 5 billion is not really that absurd when you look at everything that happened with Vegapunk and the message to the world and the fact that Luffy and the Straw Hats directly confronted the Gorosei. Going up to 5 bill, let's go with it, right? That would still be less than Rogers. That would still be less than Whitebeard's. Whitebeard's was 5 billion 46 million. So slightly below those two titans, but still higher than Shanks, higher than Big Mom and Kaido's bounties. I believe until he was thrown into a volcano, Kaido had the highest active pirate bounty in the world. I say a pirate bounty because we still do not know about dragons. Dragon is mentioned to be the world's most wanted man, so I'm taking that at face value and assuming that he is the world's most wanted man, all right? But no, yeah, so Kaido's was like 4.6 billion, something like that, right? Big Mom's was 4.4, Shanks's was around just 4, Shi, Yang, Q, so 4,048,900,000, right? Okay, it's Shanks's. So, and we know that bounties do not immediately equate battle power. So even if Luffy's bounty shot up to 5 billion and was, higher than Shanks. Although Shanks's bounty might have gone up too. Who knows? We haven't seen his bounty updated in a while. Maybe his has gone up as well. Maybe he's making waves as well. But even if it was higher than Shanks, that does not mean Shanks is weaker than Luffy. Like, oh, Luffy would defeat Shanks, no problem. I think we all, understand that, and that's not how bounties work. It's more of like a threat level gauged by the world government. And I'm going to ask you a legitimate question here, okay? Luffy and the Straw Hats directly confronting the Gorosei at Egghead. Has that ever happened with any other pirate crew ever? Like, the Gorosei actually descending on the world, like the lower realm, and going into their creepy yokai forms and I'm a sandworm, raw, and like Ethan's a spooky ghost horse centaur thing, and he's clashing with Zoro. The Gorosei do not leave their rooms very often. They don't have to deal with shit in the mortal realm the lower realm of One Piece world very often. They don't have to go to the world of the living too much. They stay up in the Soul Society, obviously, right? It probably, they had battle prowess because they obviously fought before. If you want to say the Gorosei are from the Void Century, they've obviously fought during the Void Century then. It's probably when they got their power from Eam or whatever. And I could also see, like, in the course of the last 800 years, in the course of the last 8 centuries, they've probably descended to the lower realm every once in a while, and they might have gone and had fights with various up-and-comers throughout history, right? But it doesn't happen very often, all right? Like, here's a question. Did Roger ever deal with the Gorosei directly? Did Roger or Whitebeard or Shiki or Rox or Shanks or anybody directly fight the Gorosei the way that the Straw Hats had to in the last arc? They very well might have, because God Valley is a thing, and we still do not know about God Valley entirely. We know Saturn was present at God Valley, because he had that interaction with Kuma, and then Kuma, his backstory kind of ended there when Rox and Garp and Roger were all rolling up to God Valley, right? So it's not entirely impossible that, Saturn was right there in the middle of it. Saturn might have used the summoning at God Valley and brought all the Gorosei down, and then you would have had Rox and Kaido and Big Mom and Shiki and Wang Ji and Captain John and everybody fighting against the Gorosei, and Roger and, the top hitters on his crew like Gabon and Rayleigh and Crocus and Shanks and Buggy would have been there too. Well, no, they were one. Shanks was a baby. Shanks was a baby at God Valley. They got Shanks after. Baby Shanks was present. Okay, Buggy I don't think was there yet, but Baby Shanks was present at God Valley, and he's the one that wrecked everybody. Baby Shanks' Conqueror's Hockey knocked out all the Gorosei, right? So, and then Garp was there, and I'm sure Garp had a bunch of, like, heavy-hitting, tough as nails, Marines with him, as part of his group as well, right? And they all fought, and the Gorosei were all summoned, and God Valley's gonna be crazy when we finally see that backstory, but, right? Unless that happened, and maybe that's how Whitebeard and Roger and everybody fought against the Gorosei, Luffy and the Straw Hats might be like the first people in hundreds of years to have actually directly dealt with them and impeded their efforts. I mean, yeah, it was ultimately Joy Boy's hockey bomb that sent them back to Marijois, but they still, Luffy delayed them for a time. He was throwing explosives and back in their faces and doing all this Toon World antics. That's definitely something that's going to get you noticed, right? And also, ultimately, you could say that, oh yes, the death of Vegapunk was pinned on the Straw Hats, oh yes, the Straw Hats, they kidnapped Vegapunk and they killed him. Just ignore that message, that Vegapunk broadcasted to the world. That definitely throws a wrench into things. Exactly how that's going to go with how Morgans is going to spin that story. I guess it really depends on Morgans and the World Economic Times, right? And you know how he's going to respond to that. I mean, he's going to write a special edition newspaper for sure. Morgan's is going to milk that message as long as he conceivably can, right? It's going to be a year from now, and Morgan's is going to be like 1 year after Vegapunk's message. You know, what do we know now, right? So, my point is ultimately, the Straw Hats bounties, I could see them going up through the roof because of this incident, but I don't see it, like, for me personally. If Luffy's bounty is 5 billion, if Zoro and Sanji and Jinbei's bounty are over 2 billion, if Nami's bounty is 1 billion, okay, that would give me pause. That would be like Nami's bounty like shoots up to like 1 bill. I'd be like, whoa, okay, that actually did go. See, that's the thing. I'm actually more interested in like, you know, like Nami and Usopp and Chopper's bounties going up. Do you understand Chopper's bounty might go up to 10,000 berries after this incident? It would be absurd. I'm more interested in those Straw Hats than I am Luffy and Zoro and Sanji and Jinbei, because they're already like at absurd numbers that like, okay, you know, kind of like wake me when Luffy's bounty is higher than Roger's, which it will probably be at the very like last bounty he gets in the story, right? Unless Oda decides to do that right now. But I don't know. I thought Oda was going to do that right after Wano, and it didn't happen. But now Egghead, you know, it's only like 66 chapters later after Wano, it could happen again, and it could be like, whoa, you know, and it's like maybe now it's going to be the 56, because Luffy's Gumu, like the number 56 he's associated with, so Rogers is 5.5, so Luffy's could be 5.6, you know, but maybe he hasn't quite gotten there yet, but I think it is going to shoot up quite considerably, because like, the Gorosei and Eam especially, like, also, they kind of pissed off Eam directly. They set off the hockey nuke, you know, and that was because of Luffy. Like, Luffy, using the powers of the Sun God, powered up Emmet, and that was the only reason that Emmet was able to use the hockey bomb. So, I don't know if the Gorosei are able to connect the dots on all this. Maybe Eam might. Eam might be like, oh, you fools, you ruined everything. You let that stupid Straw Hat kid have the Sun God fruit. You should have gotten that years ago. You failed me. And now he woke up the Iron Giant and used hockey. All Joy Boy's hockey is stored all over the world. You know, Eam might be mighty pissed about this. Yeah, no, Luffy is the most dangerous Yonko now. He's more dangerous than Shanks. He's more dangerous than Buggy. More dangerous than Blackbeard. No, we're giving him the highest one, 5 billion or whatever the hell, some absurd number, right? And also, when you look at the Straw Hat crew, because the way, like, the Beast Pirates worked, you know, you had Kaido at 4.6 billion, and then you had his top officers. He had 3 of his calamities, right, that are all a billion or higher. Then you had the Flying Six. Then you had the Flying Six were sitting around, like, I think Sasaki's was, like, 300 million, 400 million, something like that. And then you had, you know, the headliners below them, and then the normal gifters, and then the pleasures, and the waiters, and everything. Like, Kaido had thousands of people on his crew. Same with Big Mom. Even Shanks. Shanks doesn't have a huge crew, but he still has, you know, quite a, you know, sizable number on the Red Force and things like that, several dozen at least. So in the case with the Straw Hats, though, I mean, if you exclude the Grand Fleet, the core crew only has 10 members. So it's not absurd to, like, just like how Big Mom had the 4 Sweet Commanders until Snack got kicked out, you could look at, like, the Straw Hats from the perspective of the government, like, okay, Luffy is the captain, and then he has his 9 top officers, which is kind of similar to the way that Shanks runs his crew. Shanks is like the big boss of the red hair crew, and then he has like the regular bosses that are like his commanders. And that's Yasopp, Lucky Roo, Ben Beckman. But also there's Lime Juice and Howling Gab and Building Snake and Bonk Punch and Monster the Monkey. I'm going to count him there too. That's like 8 people. So, you know, and then Blackbeard has the 10 Titanic captains. So, you know, a captain of a crew having 10 officers, that's not absurd. And it makes even more sense with the Straw Hats. It's more impactful because that's all the crew is the 10 core members on the Straw Hat crew, right? I guess you could extend it to mean like Zeus is also a member. We were having a whole discussion about that in the stream. You know, Usopp's Kabuto is a living thing. It's a living plant. That's also a member, you know? So Vivi joins Karu, of course. Karu will be the deadly duck of the Straw Hat crew. So I'm thinking, like, okay, like Luffy, Jinbei, Zoro's bounties, and Sanji's bounties, crazy numbers, might be close to 2 billion after this, or even higher than 2 billion for, like, Zoro. I could see that. But when it comes to the rest, like, like having all the Straw Hats reach like are very, very close to 1 billion wouldn't be absurd considering they're an Emperor crew. They only have 10 members, and all the bullshit that went down at Egghead, them directly confronting the government, and Eam realizing Luffy's awakening as the Sun God could literally bring these ghosts of the past at the Void Century back to activation. Bonnie as well is also going to have a huge bounty increase, I believe, because she has the ability to go into this Sun God form and could also conceivably activate other Joy Boy hockey ropes at some point in the world, so her bounty is going to go up as well. I don't think Bonnie and Kuma are going to, like, join the Straw Hat crew. I think they're going to stay on Elbaf for a time, and we'll see where it goes with that, because ultimately, like, Bonnie's just happy to be back with her dad. You know, ultimately, she's just happy with that. She might go on a mission to go to rescue the rest of her crew, though. The Bonnie pirates, like, you know, Gyogyo and Tots and everybody that got trapped by Akainu at the end of, you know, right before the time skip. You know, they're probably in Impel Down right now, so maybe she'll go on a mission to go rescue them. Maybe they'll get on released from Impel Down when Dofi breaks out of Impel Down. That might be a thing there. And like when Bon Clay gets out, maybe Bon Clay can help Bonnie's crew find their way back to her or something like that. That's cool. So let's look at some bounties though. Let's look at it. I have the list pulled up here. Okay, so what's Nami's always, well, aside from Chopper, who's like a joke, Nami's bounty is consistently like the lowest bounty of the Straw Hats that's actually taken seriously. That isn't just a gag, right? Nami's bounty is 366 million right now. So, if not all the Straw Hats have over 1 billion, which I admit is quite substantial, how about at least all the like Nami, Chopper, Usopp, you know, those members of the Straw Hat crew, Brook, go up a nice, cool, even 500 mil. Because that would still make Nami's 866 million. And not quite 1 billion yet, not quite as much as Smoothies. I believe Smoothies was like 900 something. It was right below 1 million. Big Mom's, I think, is the only, I think she's the only woman that has a bounty over 1 billion, is Big Mom. I don't think, no, nothing on Kaido's crew, I don't believe. You know, Ultis or Black Marias were not over 1 billion, I do not think. So, I think it goes Big Mom and then Smoothie as one of her sweet commanders, and then it would be Nami as the third most wanted woman in the entire world. That would be pretty interesting. That would be, like, I could see you going up 500 million. Usopp's is 500 million, so Usopp's would be 1 billion even. Usopp would be equal to Jack. And you don't know Jack. No, like, Usopp being 1 billion, I would like. In fact, I would like it being like 1,100,000. Like, just, he was slightly better than Jack, all right? We don't have to compare Usopp to Jack here, all right? He could be slightly higher than Jack, all right? Brook would be, let's see, Brook would be sitting at 383 million right now, so he would be right around Nami. Yeah, he's like slightly more than Nami's, but not by much. He's like 20 million higher than Nami's. So, yeah, Brooks would also be around, you know, the 883, you know, million kind of mark there, 800 mil. Frankie's is 394, so also just slightly higher than Brooks, and so they would be like you could honestly, like, straight up, you could just make Nami, Usopp's, and Brooks bounties, and Frankie's bounties just all a cool billion. Just make it flat rate 1 billion. That makes it easier for Oda. But also, yeah, maybe you could keep their original numbers. Like, Nami is 1,066,000,000. Frankie is 1,094,000,000. You know, maybe something like that you could do. Or 1,940,000,000. 1.9 billion. Frankie deserves it, damn it. He had that moment in the arc where he punched out Red King. He deserves a 2 billion berry bounty for that. Jinbei's, like, okay, I am under the impression, because it seems to be like, when it comes to Yonko commanders, none of them have over, have a 2 billion or higher. Because maybe at that point you could consider, like, well, no, 2 billion or higher, that's only for Yonko. But when you look at the cross skill, that's clearly not the case. I mean, Buggy's bounty is, actually, let me look up Buggy's right now, 3,189,000,000. Mihawk's is 3,590,000,000, and then Crocodile's sitting at like 1.9. I don't think Crocodile has any place to run the Cross Guild right now. He's coming up with all these ideas and stuff. And just like, Mihawk and Buggy should be looking at him, and it's like, excuse me, do you even have a 2 billion bounty? I have 3. Mihawk has 3. What about you? 1.9. Yeah, 1.9. Sit down, Crocodile. Buggy needs to assert himself, I'll tell you what. So other than this exemption, like, you don't really see a commander or somebody under, like, I know in theory, it's like, yeah, that's the way it is in the Cross Guild. Buggy is clearly weaker than Mihawk, although I think when it comes to Shanks's crew, though, because Shanks was mentioned to have, like, his crew has the highest average bounty. If Shanks's bounty is 4 billion, I could see the core members like Yasop, Lucky Roo, and Ben Beckman especially. Ben Beckman might have a 2 billion bounty. Or if you don't want to say 2 billion because that's like a number that goes over, maybe you could say like Ben Beckman's is like 1.99 billion and Yasop's is 1.8 and Lucky Roo's is 1.7. You know what I mean? So it's like highest average bounties, and then like Lime Juice and Bonk Punch and the others are maybe sitting more at like 1.4, 1.5, something like that. And so that's why Shanks is such a big deal, and then he himself has 4 billion, right? So I could see Zoro getting 2 billion. I could see if Luffy shoots up and like Luffy directly fought the Gorosei, Zoro directly fought the Gorosei, he directly clashed with Ethan. I could see Zoro's bounty going up to 2 billion, easy with it. Sanji's, I could see it still being a little bit lower than Zoro's. It would still be like, he would be like 1.8 and Zoro would be like 2. And then, Sanji would be upset by that. Jinbei is a former warlord, and he's pretty damn tough. So, Jinbei, I could see him also being like, it's going to, I think, maintain the same equilibrium that we have right now, where Luffy's, of course, at the top, and then Zoro, and then right behind Zoro, just barely. Keep in mind, right now, Zoro's bounty is like 1,111,000,000. And then you have Jinbei's, that's 1,100,000,000. There's 11 million difference, which is like nothing, okay? 11 million. That's like less than Buggy's first bounty. You know what I mean? Like, so, yeah, you could see it like 2 billion for Zoro, 1.99 for Jinbei, and then Sanji's like 1.7. And it's like, damn it, right? What is Sanji's right now? I always forget what Sanji's is. 1,032,000,000. So yeah, Sanji's could also maybe just go up 500 mil, and then you'd have 1.5 billion, 1.532 billion for Sanji, which would be like higher than Luffy's bounty after he became the 5th emperor after Whole Cake, right? So yeah, we're kind of doing that with some of the like weaker or like the bounties that are like a little bit lower on the Straw Hats. Like Usopp's current bounty is Luffy's bounty after Dressrosa is 500 million, which is crazy, right? And so like even Nami's lowest bounty right now is a bounty that is higher than Luffy's post Enies Lobby, which is insane. Like we never would have imagined that, right? And then we get to Chopper, who, like, we've discussed this before. Like, every time I do a bounty video, I think I ask, like, what should Chopper's real bounty be? And I think it should be sitting somewhere around 400 mil right now. Like around the high 3s or low 4s, I think is a comfortable place for Chopper's actual bounty to be right now. Maybe in between Nami and Usopp, or in between Usopp and Frankie's or Brooks or something. Like, somewhere in that general range. But yeah, I think Chopper's going to hit it big this time. Actually, I want him to skip over 10,000 and 100K. Just make Chopper's bounty 1 million. Make it 1 million, and Chopper would be so happy from that. He'd be like, finally, I don't even care. 1 million, I'll take it. And that'll be good for Chopper. That'd be great for him. But yeah, and there is the last thing I'll bring up here at the end, I suppose. Are the Straw Hats even going to get higher bounties after Egghead? I don't know. Because, we are just after, Wano wasn't that long ago now, like 2 years ago. So I'm assuming we are, but like in Final Saga and all that, you got to drum up hype. And Oda might, honestly, I could definitely see an editor going to Oda and being like, hey, Oda, you're going to do new bounties after Egghead, right? And Oda might be like, well, I mean, I just did the new bounties for Wano, and it's just like, yeah, no, but you got to do new bounties after Egghead. Like, you got to. I mean, it's a big deal. It's like, okay, yeah, I'll do new bounty. Everybody loves the numbers getting bigger, so let's do that, right? So at first I was gonna say maybe they won't even get new bounties, but like, nah, I think just from a marketing perspective in One Piece Final Saga and all that, they need to get another bounty increase, definitely. But this time might be a little different than all the other times, just because of the Gorosei and Eam being directly involved and influenced from this. So we'll see how it goes. But that's my opinion on that. We'll just go 5 billion for Luffy, higher billions, maybe 2 billion for Zoro, and then everybody else gets a 500 million flat rate increase. Sounds good to me. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Teching and Vampire Barry signing out. Go to that end screen.